Hello, everyone.
Good morning.
Welcome to Monday Morning Chats. Today, we are excited to be talking about self-worth and self-worth, particularly in relation to the roles we play. Um, so, yeah, I guess the roles we play within our close circle, the roles we play as like in our community, um, and yeah, how we show up in that way and how we feel about ourselves as well. So what does this topic bring up for you, Asha?
So much. And just in hearing you say that, I just had that little moment of we really never set ourselves an easy task of what we're going to tackle in any one session. So for me, when I started reflecting on self-worth and the roles that we play, it really took me right back to family structure to begin with. And some of those lessons and expectations that were set from a really early age on how you do things and how you don't do things, for example. Um, and really recognizing within any family structure, there is a script running of how you move away from pain and towards reward. And families have different versions of how they achieve that. But for our listeners to begin with, I'd encourage them to just have a little think about, well, as a family unit overall, how did I see the patriarchy and matriarchy get their needs met from moving away from pain and towards reward? Was it hard work? Was it discipline? Was it
Mm.
academia? Was it actually that there might be an aunt or a grandmother or a mum somewhere along the lines that went, well, actually, the easiest way for me to get my needs met is to sit back and fall into a more helpless role. And so then you might see prescription use, at the fore, or, that, to put it into plain language, that more victim mentality in going, well, that's actually how that person learned to be the most effective ways to get their needs met. And
Yeah.
so then what you see is that the other people within the family and below, the next generation below, will either subscribe to that or do the counter opposite. So very kind of rarely do you get that middle ground as the family script. You'll see one extreme to the other, and it will swing with consistencies play out. So first taking stock of, well, okay, as a family script, what role was I to play in getting my needs met from moving myself and our family away from pain and towards reward?
Mm.
And then obviously my mind goes on and on from there, but I'll hand that I'll hand back to you. What comes up for you when I start speaking about that?
Well, within the family structure, I've found it really helpful in understanding myself, in asking myself the question, whose whose approval did I seek the most when I was growing up? Was it my father or my mother? Um,
Mhm.
and for me, it was my dad. Mum's approval was always really easy to get. And dad's way and his manner was to always push us to be our best. So therefore, the approval wasn't forthcoming, and therefore, I would seek it more and more. And even as an adult, I've been aware of that tendency to need his approval, as I've gone through life. Yeah, and then asking yourself the questions, why is that important to me, and how is that playing out in my life? um yeah, and the other thing that comes up for me in the roles that we play within the family is, like, that whenever we talk about topics, I always draw from my own experience at the time. This morning I went to the gym with my daughter, and I actually did a PT session, and I was feeling really lousy. Like I didn't want to be there. I made myself get up and go and do it. But at the moment, I'm in this space where both of my children are not gym junkies, but they're both really motivated and going to the gym, and they're doing really well. And I'm like dragging myself there and beating myself up because um, I'm not being the role model that I should be. So I'm running a race. I'm running that race instead of being in my own lane of um, only being in competition with myself. It's like I'm also running this dialogue of what role should I be playing, and how should I be showing up, and how strong should I be by now?
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, and it's interesting where these influences come from at particular times, you know, and yeah, even and I think what's really powerful about what you just brought up is that opportunity to catch ourselves and go, where did working out at the gym come from in terms of being a definition of physical health? You know, because part of what I hear is that, you know, your beautiful son and daughter are getting amongst it and getting great results, and that's part of what comes into these ideas about, well, this is what physical health looks like. And then I also know you really well, and I know that you enjoy moving your bodies in other ways, you know, so I think it's also, you know,
Much
it's
more
about
interesting ways.
yeah,
Like, yeah.
yeah, yeah, like counting to 30 times over isn't that fun, you know. So you know, where I
No,
know
there's no expression in that.
exactly. So I know for you, getting out on the lawn and doing yoga and climbing, you know, mountains and all those sorts of things enlivens you as well. And so I think when we put, you know, we can easily make something that isn't our zone, so to speak, really meaningful, like, you know, okay, this is going to be an activity that I do with my kids for it to be a shared experience and shared outcomes and shared goals, and I can get my zest that way. And then, like you said, just catching yourself on that kind of, well, what kind of shoulds do I have running out, and can I, you know, re-engage that part of me that loves to live and breathe in various ways, and use that to be present there. So, you know, and that's just us as well, continuously on the path of what societal script is playing out for me, what family script's playing out for me, and then how do I get back in my zone and carry out what's meaningful to me, irrespective of what kind of environment
Mm.
we're in.
And that what is meaningful to me, that when we seek out the things that are meaningful to us, and then we get the reflection back from our nearest and dearest, our family structure, that the things that are meaningful to us don't make sense, or it makes them feel uneasy about the direction that we may be headed, or when those things are projected back as being bad, then that makes us question our self-worth and question our hopes and dreams and desires being valid, and all of those things as well. So that whole being in your own lane, running your own race, competing against yourself, and really honoring how you want to feel each day and how you want to show up for yourself. It's a constant process, and evolution. And in my experience, it doesn't really get any easier because we push ourselves in different ways all the time. So
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, it's another great point in that, you know, within the more personal development or spiritual communities, often it's spoken about that there will be a family member that breaks the chain, that purposefully looks at these scripts, looks at how things have played out over time, and for whatever reason finds themselves in that family role of going, well, this doesn't work anymore. And then people will either swing to the black sheep position of the family where they can be outcast and they're too extreme, and and then the black sheep kind of turns their back on the family script. We've seen that across time. However, I feel like the new generation of that is to go, okay, this isn't working, and I will take ownership of my role, my part, and I will also allow within myself generous allowance for people to be on their own path in their own time, and allow them to come to the party, so to speak, as feels good for them and as is relevant to them at the time. Because one of my really big learnings, and I still consciously employ this, is my now may not be their now, and that is perfectly okay. And their now will always be their now. And so as long as you have spoken and embodied your message at a point in time, their now will catch up to them at the perfect time for them. So, and again, if we get into even more spiritual belief systems, that may or may not be this lifetime, and that's perfectly okay too. And it's in that generous allowance where you let go of expectation that people feel that they can come to the party with freedom. And that's when they've activated it within themselves, which brings them back to their center, their self. And when people are doing it from their own place of truth, that's when the worth gets inherently tied to the new experiences. Because if you're trying to pull someone and they're in resistance, their self-worth is not going to be breathing in the experiences as they have them. There will be a part that rejects. So I think always that generous allowance and allowing people to be on their own journey, which means you can occupy the role of the black sheep, so to speak, or the one that chooses to create a break in expectations, and that's okay. And you can do that with love and kindness rather than, no, I'm going to turn my back.
Yeah, that's right. And I feel very much like the black and white sheep in my family. So I feel like there's definitely a lot of decisions that I've made that haven't met with the expectations of my family. And but I've been very fortunate that I've kept the open love and respect channel, and so have they. So so I think it's really important to honor that you're not always going to meet the expectations of others, and that's not actually what we're here for.
Yeah.
We're here to be the fullest expression of ourselves. And when that doesn't meet others' expectations, it's actually a good thing. It's actually a good thing for you and for them, because it breaks your attachment to that approval, and it also allows them to see life from a different perspective, because you're showing them a different way to live or be, or so, but it's uncomfortable. It's really uncomfortable because we grow up with our self-worth being reliant on our parents telling us that we're doing the right thing. So it's difficult to break that pattern and that habit, but it's very worthwhile if it's to seek out your own soul expansion and life experience.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And then the other area that I also think is really worth canvassing is that we go from our family structure into the educational structure. And from a more neuroscience perspective, the education system is all based on the left brain hemisphere, which is how do I put things into boxes, what's orderly, what's disciplined, what is finite, where are the edges of things, because allowing people to come to grapple with concepts in a concrete way has been perceived as the easiest or most structured way to scaffold learning.
This is right and this is wrong, and
Exactly.
there's no gray area.
Exactly. And we're going to teach this structured criteria as to what it means to meet this grade within this subject. And it's all very rigid. And anyone who's spent any time with children know that when they first start doing that, that's like pulling teeth, because they're still they're right brain activated, which is the expressive play, experience and learn through experience, that's very much at the forefront. And so then we go from a right brain, which is where there's so much more creativity, so much more playfulness, so much more ability to see things in its entirety. And then we have 12 years on average of a very left brain structured environment where people then learn, well, this is now how I get my needs met. It's my ability to sit still, it's my ability to listen quietly, to be compliant, and to obtain knowledge as it is given to me via this structure.
Absolutely.
And so then that comes at the cost of creativity and actually engaging the world with the sense of infinite, which is actually where a lot of soul expansion comes from. And that sounds really esoteric. However, when you actually apply physical law and quantum physical law back into, so that's where the scientific discipline has started to engage with the infinite. They're now saying the same thing, that when you look at yourself as a manifestation of the infinite, and that infinite exists within you because you were created from it, and you start dancing with those constructs, that takes self-worth into a very different place. And it requires the suspension of all the left brain learning and the fact that as a society we've been conditioned to have our needs met, success, status, money, career growth, all those things, recognition, typically via the left brain structure. So there will be a time when you start engaging in the infinite, which often comes after a crisis point, that all of this needs to suspend and actually crumbles. And then that's when that part of you starts to awaken and come alive, and you start re-engaging with the right brain and what's so much bigger. And then that's when things become really interesting again. And also you can find yourself in a position where it feels quite lonely, because people don't necessarily suspend all of that and feel inspired to engage with this at the one time.
Absolutely. And when you were coming to the end of talking about the period of schooling life, then people go into the rest of their lives, which is meant to happen in a certain order. Like society then creates the structure of, oh, okay, and then you go to university, and then you work for a while, and then you get married, and then you have a baby, and then like, so there's this whole the way that we should, well, when I grew up anyway, the way that we should be showing up in the world, and so we live by that structure. I do think that as time goes on, like with every generation, there is freedoms that come out earlier and earlier. So I feel like that left brain, and when you were saying left brain, I was thinking 3D. So for our spiritual buffs out there, living in the 3D physical
Yeah.
structured world, rather than the um, the using your the part of yourself that thinks what is possible for me.
Yeah, beautiful.
Mm.
Mm, mm, yeah. And then the more, and again, the spiritual buffs will also probably recognize this part of the journey, is that when you expand yourself into the 5D, to use that the rest of that analogy, where there's more, where you've actually, your consciousness is at a point where it's connected to, and again from the quantum physics perspective, the quantum realm, which is the vacuum, the space-time vacuum that houses all knowledge. When you start connecting at that level, and the infinite realigns with the infinite, and you're able to receive essentially transcendental messages, the part of the journey where your infinite self then comes back into contact with the 3D world, and the fact that the gross majority is still in the finite, then it's about reintegration again. And it's like, okay, now how do I best utilize what I am now aware of and have come into contact with, and be able to execute it in the 3D world? Because
bring it into my physical reality, and
exactly.
create it in my, particularly when it goes against everything that I've been brought up to believe and know, and be reflected back to me. So that point there is a really difficult and shaky point in your self-worth journey, because everyone around you is like, she's freaking crazy. And you know what you've experienced on the other side is true. You know that when you've had that experience, and you've had that feeling of oneness and completeness, and I can create anything from this space, you know that to be true. But it's when we come back and live it that we meet with the resistance of people who aren't there yet, which is what you were saying before.
Yes, yes, exactly, exactly. And then that brings us right back around to which is a common thing that you and I talk about, being amongst your tribe, and allowing those tribe members to get brought into you, because this journey requires being able to speak a common language, and because there is so much resistance to the fullest expression of self, because that requires venturing right into the unknown, releasing all those previous scripts of, from a familial perspective, how do I get my needs met? From a societal perspective, from an education perspective, how do I get my needs met? So it requires suspending all of that to come into contact with the true self, embrace that, and essentially go off the beaten path to a degree, in going, this is actually something that only I can execute. And that requires tremendous bravery. And so having the people that surrounded by you, where they just simply go, yeah, that makes sense to me, that is worth its weight in gold. Because everyone needs to feel that that they do have a support whilst they go off the beaten path. And then it's like you said right at the beginning, it's a continual evolution of walking down the path that essentially only you can walk down.
And the tribe that you surround yourself with will change as you change as well, because you'll go off in different directions. So that constant evolution and process of bringing in and letting go, and bringing in and letting go, it's really it's a cycle.
Yes,
Cycle of growth.
exactly. So just in the interest of time, because we always run out very quickly,
Yeah.
where would you encourage our listeners to begin in going, okay, I can, as we've canvassed some of these topics, I can see how that has played or is playing out. Where would I start in starting to suspend some of that and starting to honor the more infinite, the more right hemisphere side of the brain, those practices that allow me to have those experiences of wholeness and oneness, to redefine where my self-worth is generated from? Where would you encourage our listeners to begin?
Create yourself bubbles of space and time that are outside of the normal, your normal daily routine. So whether that's going for a mindful walk in the park and really tuning in with nature. Nature is a really beautiful place to come back into contact with that sense of oneness. It's very, very low hanging fruit for me in how to grab that sense of oneness for yourself, and seek out your tribe. Really work out. If you're listening to this podcast and you've been listening for a while, there's obviously something about how Asha and I speak about these topics that resonates with you. And the other people that you're being attracted to listen to as well, and who are they hanging out with, and how can you be more in that bubble? So because that's where your soul is seeking out growth and evolution, and is attracting other things into your field to enliven that part of you. So don't ignore it because your day normally runs this way. Really grab those bubbles, because that's where you're going to really start to feel your soul expand.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, I agree. And yes, for those of you who do feel that resonance, and we really welcome you into our community. And and like we mentioned last time, we've got VIP chats directly after, which is that honored bubble where you can actually share in the dialogue with us, and we can contribute in a very direct way. So we also welcome anyone who's interested in that. Beautiful. And then the only other thing I would add to some of those practices is when people start playing with the infinite and abstract, there's a tendency to seek outwards. However, the trick is seeking inwards, because the infinite actually exists within you. And again, from a quantum physics perspective, that infinite is within every cell of your being. So all the grand masters will always encourage the journey inwards. So a daily meditative practice that takes you inwards and starts bringing that infinite within to a known level, that's where the magic starts happening. And that's where there's actually a sense of grace and ease within that. And there will be a natural release of what no longer serves you. So a daily meditative practice, whether that's some of our meditations, whether that's a YouTube practice that you have each and every day, but some kind of meditative practice that takes you inward. And I agree, then nature is such a beautiful way to come back to oneness. And on a final note there, it actually reminds me, what you've just said there reminds me of something my father said when he got diagnosed with advanced cardiomyopathy, advanced heart failure, was even the trees look different. And so what I would really encourage our listeners is that moment in time where consciousness breaks through and you actually witness the wonder of the world for what it is. We don't have to wait for some kind of crisis for that moment. It's right there for the taking now. And all it takes is the lifting of the lens that we've been conditioned that life has to look this way. Because those moments where consciousness breaks through and we experience the awe and wonder, that's the beginning. And that's you actually allowing that portal in for it to start interplaying with the beauty of the world around you. And then it becomes a feedback loop. The beauty within, the beauty without, the beauty within, the beauty without. And that's when it starts to bring momentum, and life becomes so much richer and fuller, even though you might look around and not much has changed. So it can be in those micro moments, and is in those micro moments that the world changes because you have changed.
Mm.
Cool. Well, as always, thank you for joining us. Anyone that wants to jump on and jump into VIP chats this week, you can DM us and we'll flick you through the link. And yeah, we'll catch you next week. And yeah, as always, thanks so much for joining us.
Have a wonderful week, everyone.